stainless steel tray against the counter nearly drowned out the impatient voice of the customer. "Miss, I've been waiting for 20 minutes. Are you even listening?" Before we begin, drop a comment and tell us where are you from and from which city you're watching our videos. And after watching the whole video, don't forget to tell us, what would you do in this situation? Be honest. Tell me in the comments below. We read every comment. Let's begin. I swallowed hard, forced a tired smile, and slid the plate across. My arms ached from carrying stacks of dishes all day. My back felt like it was on fire, and the sweat sticking to my uniform clung like glue. Double shifts at the diner weren't glamorous, but they paid the bills. At least they were supposed to. By the time I finally clocked out, the sky was dark. My shoes squished with sweat as I dragged myself down the block, just dreaming of unlocking the front door to my little house, showering off the grease smell, and collapsing into bed. But when I reached the street corner, I froze. The porch light was off, the curtains were missing, and a moving truck sat in the driveway, tailgate open, men tossing furniture inside like it was scrap wood. "What the hell?" My voice cracked as I dropped my bag and ran forward. One of the movers barely looked at me. "You the tenant?" "Orders from the owners. House sold this morning. Everything's being cleared." My heart slammed so hard I couldn't breathe. "Number, that's not possible. This is my house. My name is on the—" Before I could finish, I heard laughter. Light, sharp, cutting through the night. I turned, and there she was, my sister Amanda, standing on the sidewalk with her arms crossed, smirk plastered on her perfect face. "Well," she drawled, tilting her head like she was enjoying a private joke. "I guess someone finally told you." I staggered toward her, every muscle in my body trembling. "What did you do? Why is my house being emptied?" Amanda didn't even blink. She leaned closer, her perfume hitting me like poison. "Mom and Dad sold it. Signed everything over to fund Kyle's trip to Europe. You know, something worthwhile. He deserved it more than you." Her words burned like acid. My brother, the golden boy, the one who never worked a day in his life, who flunked out of college twice, and still got praised for finding himself. And me, I'd been killing myself with double shifts, holding everything together. I felt my lips curve into a slow, sharp smile that didn't match the chaos in my chest. Amanda's brows lifted, confused. She thought she'd crushed me. She thought I'd beg, cry, maybe throw a scene. Instead, I just whispered, "Wait until you hear who really owned that land." The color drained from her face, because she didn't know. None of them knew. And that was the beginning of their undoing. Amanda's smirk only deepened when she saw the shock on my face. She folded her arms like she had won some prize. "Don't look so surprised, Riley," she said. "Kyle's future matters more than your little house. He deserved it more than you." Her words stabbed at me, but instead of breaking down, I forced myself to stay calm. My voice came out steady, sharper than I expected. "Deserved it? He's never worked a day in his life. I've been pulling double shifts just to keep this place running, and you think selling it behind my back is fair?" Amanda laughed. "Fair? Life isn't fair. Mom and Dad finally did something right for once." The movers kept shuffling boxes, avoiding eye contact like they didn't want to get dragged into the family drama. I stepped closer, lowering my voice, but making sure she heard every syllable. "You think this house belonged to Mom and Dad to sell?" I asked. Amanda tilted her head, smirk still on her face. "Obviously. Who else would it belong to?" That's when I let the smallest smile tug at my lips. I leaned in, close enough for her to feel the sting of my words. "Wait until you hear who really owned that land." Her smirk faltered for the first time. "What are you talking about?" I pulled my phone out, swiping quickly to the scanned documents Grandma had given me months before. The official stamp glared back in the glow of the screen. "You should have paid attention before running your mouth, Amanda. Grandma didn't leave this land to Mom, Dad, or Kyle. She left it to me, legally recorded, witnessed, and sealed." Amanda's eyes darted to the movers, then back to me. Her confidence cracked just enough for me to see the fear she tried to hide. "You're bluffing." "Am I?" I said softly. "Tomorrow you'll see the proof. And when you do, that smirk of yours won't save you." For the first time all night, Amanda had nothing to say. The silence between us was heavier than any insult she'd thrown before. And standing there, tired, angry, and still in my grease-stained uniform, I realized something. I finally had the upper hand. The next morning, I barely slept. My uniform from the diner still hung on the back of the chair, carrying that faint smell of grease and burnt coffee I couldn't scrub off my skin. But I didn't care. My mind wasn't on double shifts or aching feet anymore. It was on the fireproof envelope sitting on the dresser, the one Grandma had insisted I keep safe. By 9:30 a.m., I was already downtown, the courthouse looming over the city like some concrete fortress. People rushed in and out, lawyers in sharp suits, clerks balancing files, a few nervous couples clutching paperwork. I stood there gripping the strap of my worn-out bag, my pulse drumming. At 9:59, they arrived. Amanda first, clicking down the sidewalk in heels too bright for the occasion, still pretending this was some kind of performance. Behind her came Mom and Dad, both dressed like they'd just walked out of a country club brunch. And, of course, Kyle trailed last, sleepy-eyed, yawning, sunglasses pushed up like the sunlight was personally attacking him. The moment he saw me, Kyle snorted. "Really, Riley? You dragged us all the way down here because you're jealous of a vacation?" I clenched my jaw. "Number, I dragged you here because you sold something you didn't own." Dad's lips pressed into a thin line. "Stop this nonsense. We handled it, Riley. The house was ours to sell. End of story." "Not quite," I said, pulling the envelope from my bag. My hands didn't even shake this time. I'd been waiting for this. "You sold the structure, sure, but the land, the deed to the actual soil, belongs to me. Grandma made sure of it." I laid the documents flat on the table inside the recorder's office. The clerk glanced at the raised seal, then at my parents. "This was recorded last December," she said matter-of-factly. "Valid and active. Leasehold interest, consent clause. Yes, she's correct. Any sale without the landowner's signature is unenforceable." Amanda's face drained of color. Mom stiffened, clutching her purse like someone had just told her it was fake. Dad's nostrils flared, but he didn't argue. The seal spoke louder than any excuse. Kyle blinked, confused. "Wait, so what does that mean? The money?" The clerk adjusted her glasses and read aloud. "Any transfer made in violation of the consent clause shall result in the full net proceeds reverting to the landowner." She looked at me. "That's you?" The silence that followed was so heavy I could feel the weight of it pressing down on the room. Amanda whispered, "You're lying?" But her voice cracked halfway. "No," I said, steady as stone. "You sold the roof over my head, but Grandma made sure I'd always have the ground beneath my feet. That money you thought would send Kyle across Europe? It's mine now." Kyle's sunglasses slipped down his nose. "You've got to be kidding me." I turned to face all of them, my voice sharper now, carrying every sleepless night, every double shift, every insult they'd thrown at me. "You treated me like I was disposable, like my work didn't matter, like my life was less valuable than Kyle's endless vacations. But here's the truth. Grandma saw me. She trusted me. And now you'll see just how big of a mistake you made." For the first time in years, they weren't laughing, mocking, or sneering. They were silent, because the one thing they valued most, money, had slipped straight through their fingers into mine. And standing there, I realized something I never thought I'd feel around them. Power. The courthouse air still clung to my skin as I walked outside with the envelope pressed tight against my chest. The sun had burned through the morning haze, but my parents and siblings stood in the shadow of the building, their faces twisted with disbelief. Amanda was the first to break the silence. She stormed toward me, heels clicking against the pavement like gunshots. "You set this up, didn't you?" she hissed. "You and Grandma, plotting behind our backs. You knew about this all along." I met her glare without flinching. Of course I knew. That's why I didn't fall apart when I saw movers clearing my house last night. You thought I'd just roll over, but Grandma didn't raise me to be stupid. She raised me to survive you. Amanda's jaw tightened, but before she could spit out another insult, Mom's voice cracked through the tension. "How dare you embarrass us like that, Riley?" Her nails dug into the leather of her purse. "You stood there in front of a clerk and humiliated this family." I actually laughed, a sharp, bitter laugh that cut through her theatrics. "No, Mom. You humiliated yourselves when you forged ahead with a sale you didn't have the right to make. I didn't ruin your reputation. You did that the second you signed papers without understanding what you were signing." Dad finally stepped forward, face red, voice sharp. "You think you're clever, waving paperwork around like some kind of lawyer. Let me remind you, Riley, you wouldn't even have had that house if it weren't for us. We co-signed. We carried the risk. I squared my shoulders, meeting his glare head on. And Grandma made sure you couldn't touch it when it mattered most. She knew what you'd try to do. She knew you'd always put Kyle first. That's why she locked you out legally and gave me the ground beneath the house. She didn't trust you, and now you've proved her right. Kyle scoffed, tugging his sunglasses off and shoving them into his pocket. So what, Riley? You've got the money now? Congratulations. You're still a waitress pulling double shifts. Do you really think owning some dirt makes you better than me? I turned toward him, and this time, my voice wasn't just steady. It carried a weight even I hadn't felt before. No, Kyle. What makes me better is that I work for what I have. I don't need mom and dad to rob other people to pay for my vacations. I don't need handouts. I've been surviving without your approval my whole life, and now I'll thrive without it. For a moment, his smug expression faltered. A few people on the courthouse steps had stopped to watch, their curious glances flicking between us. It wasn't a private argument anymore. It was a public unraveling. My family, so obsessed with appearances, was being stripped bare right in front of strangers. Amanda tugged on Mom's sleeve, whispering urgently. Mom nodded, then tried to soften her tone like she always did when she wanted to manipulate me. Listen, Riley, you've made your point. But think about what you're doing. This money, it was supposed to give Kyle opportunities. Don't you want your brother to have a future? Isn't family more important than money? My throat tightened, but not from doubt, from fury. Family? I repeated, my voice rising. Family is what you use as a shield every time you betray me. Family didn't think twice about selling the roof over my head. Family laughed when I worked double shifts while Kyle slept in. Family told me I wasn't worth as much as a plane ticket to Europe. Don't stand there and lecture me about family when you've never treated me like part of one. The silence that followed was suffocating. I could see people whispering at the edge of the steps, their eyes wide. My parents hated gossip more than anything, and now they were the center of it. Amanda broke first, her voice sharp but shaky. You'll regret this. You think you've won, but when the money runs out, you'll come crawling back. You always do. I stepped closer, so close she had to tilt her chin up to meet my eyes. No, Amanda, the crawling stops today. Her lips parted, but no words came out. I turned and started walking down the courthouse steps, the envelope clutched tightly in my hand. Behind me, their voices rose, angry, panicked, desperate. But I didn't stop. Every step felt like a chain snapping off my back, years of humiliation and betrayal falling away. By the time I reached the sidewalk, my phone buzzed. A message from the escrow officer, funds released. Proceeds redirected to Hart Corner Land, LLC. I stopped in my tracks, staring at the words, my hands trembling. It was real. The money they thought was Kyle's was mine. All of it. For the first time in years, I smiled. Not out of spite, not out of bitterness, but out of sheer relief. They had taken everything they thought I had. But Grandma had given me something they could never steal. And now, I was finally free. The message from escrow lit up my screen like a beacon. Funds released. Proceeds redirected to Hart Corner Land, LLC. My hands tightened around the phone until I thought it might crack, but I couldn't let go. This was real. It wasn't a bluff, wasn't just some paperwork I waved in my family's face. It was mine. The very money they stole to fund Kyle's Playboy vacation was now sitting safely under my name. Behind me, I heard the shuffle of heels and the hurried breath of Amanda catching up. She grabbed my arm, nails digging into my sleeve. You can't just take it all, she hissed, her face blotchy with panic. That's not how family works. I yanked my arm free. Don't you dare use the word family with me again. Mom and Dad were right behind her, their polished appearances unraveling by the second. Dad's face was red, his jaw tight, while Mom's lipstick smudged as she muttered desperate appeals. Riley, think about this. Be reasonable. We can sit down, discuss a fair split. I spun on my heel, my voice slicing through her words. Fair split? Where was the fair split when you signed my house away without even calling me? Where was the fair split when Amanda mocked me last? Night for working 2 jobs while Kyle partied? Number, you wanted all of it. Now you get nothing. Kyle, finally realizing the weight of it all, shoved his sunglasses back on. but his voice cracked when he spoke. "You don't need that money, Riley. You're just gonna waste it. You don't even know how to handle it." I stared at him for a long moment, then said softly, "Funny. That's exactly what Grandma used to say about you." His mouth fell open, but no words came. The tension around us had drawn a small crowd. Lawyers exiting the courthouse, strangers with coffee cups. They all lingered, curious. My family, who always valued appearances above all else, was now being exposed in broad daylight. Their humiliation wasn't just in losing the money, it was in losing the performance they'd worked so hard to maintain. I stepped forward, lowering my voice so only they could hear. "Do you know what this really is? Justice. For every time you called me less. For every night I came home from work and found you throwing parties with the lights I paid for. For every sigh, every sneer, every reminder that Kyle was the golden child and I was the burden. Justice doesn't always come loud. Sometimes it comes on embossed paper with a seal. And sometimes," I lifted the envelope slightly, "it comes with a bank transfer." Amanda's eyes filled with something I'd never seen in her before. Not just anger, but fear. Mom pressed her lips together, and Dad, for the first time, looked like he might break. I turned away before they could see the tears burning the edges of my own vision. They would never understand that I hadn't wanted revenge. What I wanted was respect. What I wanted was to matter. And thanks to Grandma, I finally had something they couldn't take away. As I walked down the block, my phone buzzed again. A message from the bank app confirmed the transfer. 6 figures, clean, secured. My legs almost gave out beneath me, but I kept walking, step by step until the courthouse was behind me. I stopped at the diner on the corner, the same one where I'd spent countless nights pouring coffee for strangers who barely looked at me. For once, I didn't walk in as the tired waitress. I walked in as someone who had taken back her life. Sliding into a booth, I set the envelope beside me and finally let myself exhale. For years, I thought survival meant enduring whatever scraps my family threw at me. But now I knew survival was more than that. It was standing up. It was refusing to be their punching bag. It was holding the ground beneath my feet and saying, "No more." And as I sipped a cup of coffee that I didn't have to serve,